The next day, in the middle of the service, I heard someone clear their throat behind me. I turned and my stomach dropped. It was Greg, standing in the church, carrying a huge pile of papers.
Emily, this is ridiculous. Read the contract.
Greg, this is insane. You're crashing a funeral. I told you, I'd do it tomorrow when I came back to work. But you signed off on my leave today, and the company signed off my leave today too.
I don't care what the company says. I care what I say. Now come back to work or you'll be fired. Understood? Sir, this is a very solemn affair. You need to leave now. Oh, shut up, you dress-wearing fool. No one asked for your opinion, and if you keep interrupting me, I'll shove you into that coffin myself.
Whispers filled the church. My family stared in horror. I was speechless. He actually had the audacity to crash my grandmother's funeral over a stupid contract. As if that wasn't bad enough, he then stepped over to the coffin and pushed it hard enough that it nearly tipped and toppled over. If the priest hadn't caught it at the last second, my poor grandmother would have toppled to the ground. Everyone in the church stared daggers at him. My name is Emily, and I used to work for the worst boss imaginable. His name was Greg, and he was a tyrant in a suit. He was the kind of guy who got his kicks from bullying everyone he perceived as being beneath him. He treated everyone like dirt, barking orders, micromanaging, and making our lives miserable just because he could. You could tell he was enjoying himself by the little uptick of his mouth and the gleam in his eye when he saw someone getting flustered or emotional due to his furious bullying. Every morning, he would have us all line up before we started our work and have us bow to him and thank him for the pleasure of working for him. I could tell that it made him feel powerful and important. But yeah, that was just something small. There were many other things he did that made him the worst boss, though. One example happened a few months ago. I have a colleague called Sarah who works hard. She has her son in an after-school program so that she can work late should she need to. She's never late, regularly works overtime, and is never late to hand in her work. She's a dedicated member of the team, and everyone knows it, except, apparently, Greg. Or, if he does know it, he certainly proved that he didn't care an inch. One Monday morning, Sarah, a single mom on our team, had to leave early because her son was sick. She had worked overtime all week, but Greg didn't care.
Leaving early again, Sarah? Maybe this job is just too much for you. If you can't work your full workday, then why even apply? I mean, this job is 9 to 5 for 9 to whenever you see fit to leave. I can't just be letting you walk out of work before your time is up. Not again.
What do you mean, again? Greg, I already made up my hours.
Did I ask for excuses? If you can't commit, there are plenty of people who will. You're as replaceable as my shoes, Sarah. Don't for a second think you hold value beyond fingers on a keyboard.
Sarah's eyes welled up, but she bit her tongue and left. The office watched her walk out, all wanting to do something, but knowing that their jobs were also on the line. No one felt good about it. In fact, half the trauma of working in that workplace was knowing that you had to leave loyalty to friends at the door, or else you might be risking being able to afford to put food on the table or pay your rent. Sarah was on victim of Greg's wretchedness, and she wasn't the only one he treated like this. One Friday, Tom from accounting was packing up at 5 o'clock sharp. He had bravely worked his full shift in spite of being very ill, and he was looking forward to going home and resting so that his illness would not get worse. Well, Greg saw this as a problem. Greg strolled past his desk and smirked.
Oh, heading out already? We've got a big contract to finalize. Guess you don't care about your job. What? I'm sorry, Greg, but I don't feel well. And I just figured that it was a better idea for me to head home and sleep it off so that I would be well rested for tomorrow. Yeah, we all have sob stories. Sit back down or don't bother coming back on Monday. I don't let part-time employees work here, and if you leave right now, that's exactly what you would be. Get back to work and don't give me a sob story about having a fever.
It ached at my heart to see him broken down like that, and we could tell that he was struggling to stay awake. He looked like hell, and I have no doubt that his fever was dangerously high. And as usual, Greg walked away like he'd just done something clever. That made me angrier than ever. I felt my blood boiling over his dismissive attitude towards someone's general health and well-being. I decided then and there that I had to do something. The next time he decided to play God in our lives, I caught it all on camera.
Toughen up, Oliver. What on earth do you think you're doing? Leaving the office right now.
Sir, my husband just called. My mother is in intensive care. I need to...
You need to sit down and do your job. I have 1,000,000 people lined up to take your place. I can easily have one of them here. Just a body at a keyboard.
Then call them. I've been waiting to hand in my resignation anyway. I can and am.
The office silently cheered Oliver on. We watched in awe as she threw her belongings in a box, signed out of her computer, and turned to leave.
Now wait just one moment, Oliver. You can't just...
You've got 1,000,000 people lined up to take my job, right? Just a body at a keyboard, right? Well, consider this body donated.
Strange analogy aside, I had a lot of respect for Oliver as she flipped Greg off and walked out of the building. It takes a lot of energy to not shout out in glee at Greg's panicked spluttering. He followed Oliver to the door, muttering under his breath about raises and being all talk. Oliver didn't give in, though, and she let the door slam in Greg's face. Greg turned around, saw us all staring, and roared.
Get back to work, you slobs. I expect you to complete your work and Oliver's by the time the day is out, or you're all on the street.
The recording was evidence, but not enough. I had hoped to get something more incriminating, but I'd take Oliver sticking it to the man over getting evidence any day. Besides, Greg was crazy enough that I'd get something bad enough before long. See, Greg lived for power trips. He loved making people miserable. It was only a matter of time before he looked for a way to put himself back on top again. I was expecting something bad, because he'd fallen a long way and the top was quite of the way. So I was expecting something awful. But nothing could have prepared me for what he did to me. It all started when my grandmother passed away. She was my rock, my biggest supporter. When she died, I was devastated. She was old, but she was healthy. She did park runs, she ate her greens, so it was completely unexpected. The same day, I went to meet Greg in his office. Sir, my grandmother has passed away. I will be attending her funeral in 2 weeks' time. I will be taking the whole day off. In the next 2 weeks, I will work an extra hour a day to cover that missing time, and I will make sure all of my work is completed ahead of time. I've already put the timesheets in with HR, and I won't be getting paid overtime for those extra hours. You have to do literally nothing that you need to do. I'm just giving you the courtesy of knowing. I didn't want to leave anything left unexplained. I was doing everything I could to ensure there was no backlash. What could Greg say? I wasn't going to let anything stand in my way.
Fine.
Thank you, sir. I assumed that was it. I was grieving, but I did my work as I promised. I stayed an extra hour every day, completed all of my work ahead of time. And the moment I started to get ready to leave the day before the funeral, a whole 2 weeks after I told Greg I was going, he decided to make things difficult.
Here.
Greg dumped a heaping pile of papers on my desk.
I need you to read through this before the meeting tomorrow.
You'll have to ask someone else, Greg. I'm on leave tomorrow, remember?
Not anymore, doll. I need you here.
I can't. I'm attending my grandmother's funeral. You approved my leave?
Business doesn't stop for your personal drama. Find a way to read it.
No, I don't have time. I have to pack and fly out tonight. Sorry, Greg, but you had 2 weeks to ask me to do this. I'm busy from right now until Friday. It's against company policy for you to ask me to do work once my leave starts. I picked up the pile of papers and slammed them into his chest. Do it yourself. Power move aside, I still felt like my legs were jelly. I was risking a lot, but still, my grandmother's funeral was non-negotiable. I was angry that he was making me doubt myself for going through with something I'd done all the right things for. Anyway, that night, I packed my bags, jumped on a red-eye, and arrived at the airport in a little town in the south. My parents met me at the airport and brought me to my childhood home. The next day, in the middle of the service, I heard someone clear their throat behind me. I turned and my stomach dropped. It was Greg, standing in the church, carrying a huge pile of papers.
Emily, this is ridiculous. Read the contract.
Greg, this is insane. You're crashing a funeral. I told you, I'd do it tomorrow when I came back to work. But you signed off on my leave today, and the company signed off my leave today too.
I don't care what the company says. I care what I say. Now come back to work or you'll be fired. Understood? Sir, this is a very solemn affair. You need to leave now. Oh, shut up, you dress-wearing fool. No one asked for your opinion, and if you keep interrupting me, I'll shove you into that coffin myself.
Whispers filled the church. My family stared in horror. I was speechless. He actually had the audacity to crash my grandmother's funeral over a stupid contract. As if that wasn't bad enough, he then stepped over to the coffin and pushed it hard enough that it nearly tipped and toppled over. If the priest hadn't caught it at the last second, my poor grandmother would have toppled to the ground. Everyone in the church stared daggers at him. Before I could say anything, another voice cut through the air.
Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?
It was the CEO's mother. She happened to be a close friend of my grandmother's and was at the funeral. Greg turned, paled, and stammered.
Oh, I was just...
My heart started hammering in my chest. This couldn't have worked out worse for Greg. He obviously had no idea that my grandma was well connected. How could he? He's never bothered to look into the lives of the people who worked for him.
Disrespecting the dead, harassing an employee? I'll be speaking to my son about this.
Wait, no. Please don't. I'm her boss. I have the right to tell her what to do.
And my son is your boss. We'll see what he thinks about that.
Greg left in a hurry, barely dodging the security guards that suddenly appeared after the CEO's mother had called them. They tried to tackle Greg and had him pinned painfully to the ground, but he fought back like an animal and punched and kicked his way free, and he ran. They gave chase, but the damage was done. The funeral was already in a disarray, but by the time it was over, the woman was on the phone with her son, and the consequences hit fast. To be honest, I was amazed that he didn't get himself arrested, but I think that would have been too easy on him, and I doubt the CEO and his mother wanted him to have it easy after what he pulled. I went back to work on Friday, and I got to have a front row seat to him being fired. But that wasn't enough for me. I made sure every industry contact I had knew exactly what Greg had done. No one would hire him. His name became synonymous with workplace toxicity. Then, through some careful networking, I found out he'd finally landed a job, janitorial work at a corporate firm. So I made a little visit. Long time no see. I see you've climbed the corporate ladder. His face turned red as I watched him scrub the lobby floor, but I wasn't done. Every so often, I'd make sure he saw me, whether it was walking into his workplace as a client or sending over coffee for the cleaning staff with a little note. Hope you're keeping up with the demands of a fast-paced company. Love, Emily. He had spent years belittling employees, treating them like dirt. Now he had to endure the very humiliation he loved to dish out. And I made sure he never forgot it. I made sure everyone in our department knew where to find Greg. And to top it off, Oliver was also working as a boss at this new firm. She was now Greg's boss, and she made sure Greg remembered it every day.
Greg, time to shine my shoes. And then when you're finished, I want you to clean my personal bathroom with a toothbrush. Maybe this time you'll do a better job. Otherwise, you'll be on your arse on the street, and we both know you don't have better options for jobs, but I have better options for employees.
Karma tasted so sweet. If you don't subscribe in the next 5 seconds, absolutely nothing will happen. But wouldn't it be cooler if you did?